I was approached by my pastor's son about, some things about the rapture and should I prove it or prove the pre-trib rapture. And I was like, of course, I knew everything you could know about the pre-trib rapture and dispensationalism.
Mm-hmm.
So clearly I went to those verses, but when I had some questions put back to me, about the coming of the Lord and what happened and, all those things that I was questioning as well started to make sense. Like maybe there are other conferences at the college outside in the city that I went to. I was found out about. Of course, I found out later, pre-wrath was what was discussed. And, I don't really hold to that, but it was my first entrance into, learning about, this topic that I couldn't really prove 100%. For me, I kept coming back to Matthew 24, 29 through 31, and 1 Thessalonians 4, 13 through 17. Both talk about the coming of the Lord, the Perusia of the Lord.
Mm-hmm.
But I was hearing one thing from some person, and then I was hearing one thing from God when I read the scriptures. For me, I just saw one event. Without anybody saying anything, I just kept seeing, well, this is when the Lord comes, and this is what happens.
Mm-hmm.
But this person over here in the pulpit has always told me, well, this is something separate, or this is something that was told just to the church. And so, that was kind of the hang-up, and I just kind of dismissed it. But the more and more I studied, especially this word Perusia, within just a few minutes I realized, hey, this is the same word. This is the coming of the Lord is the coming of the Lord, and we just find this is what happens. Here's what the issue is. As I studied more at college, I got into the files, learned a little bit more about dispensationalism, saw that it was revived. And that's not really taught in church to the people. It's taught to pastors. It's if you were to go to the seminary, it would probably be taught as, the gospel there, or, what it's founded on, because there's no way to come to pre-trib rapture unless you are a dispensationalist.
Right.
So we could go in farther beyond that, but one of the reasons why I don't want to is because that's going beyond what's written. What I want to do is try to make sure that we correctly handle the Word of God grew up in a town called Franklin, Indiana, and as it relates to religion or beliefs, I grew up, well, we started going to church and was invited when I was about 11 or 12 to a Baptist church from my neighbors down the street, and we started going pretty regularly, and so my background would be, independent fundamental Baptist. So I come from that upbringing, and like everything that they believe is what I got brought up and taught about. And as it was with myself, my mother and my father both worked. I have a brother, and so we, as it relates to church, we were always there. Every time the church doors were open, we were always there. So I got a really good understanding of what that was all about. And
you were into it big time.
Oh yeah. Like I said, even though I went to public school, we were always at church, and the church was kind of affiliated with some different colleges. And so what happened was I feel like, I didn't really know what I wanted to do with the public school situation, but I was so involved with church and then with the things that I saw at home and other things. I felt called to at least go to a Christian college, and then the more that I listened to God, I really felt called to preach or do something in the ministry. So that's when I ended up choosing Pensacola Christian College in Florida, and decided to major in pastoral ministries.
And you were like a golden boy there, were you? They thought you had the gift and all that, right?
Yeah, it was one of those things. I even, I went on Christian service all the time and pretty much followed all the rules, and got to my sophomore year, and actually I was requested or chosen to be a leader of a Christian service. The issue was, as I read the Bible, there always came back to some things in prophecy that I questioned, but I was a little concerned or afraid of bringing them up, or is there anybody else out there that believes this? Because when you only know one thing, and when you trust people, when you trust your pastor, or when you trust the people that are teaching you, you also have to have a little bit of respect as well. So how do you go about asking questions to somebody and knowing that that may not be what they line up with? And so